Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from RicoScores, and I finally took some time to just sit down and really review my notes, look at a lot of the different clips and things like that we saw from mandatory minicamp. Now, granted, I wasn't able to go to any of the practices, and even beyond that, reporters, fans, or whoever only had access to the 3 mandatory minicamp practices that we had, and like 4 of like the double-digit voluntary OTA practice that we had. So my point is, we have a very limited amount of information that's come from this offseason so far. And then even if we did have direct access to every single practice that the Commanders had up to this point, we still wouldn't be able to make any real conclusions from what we've seen so far as to who's necessarily starting, who's balling out, who's the best, who's the weakest link, and things like that. But my point is, I'm gonna try my best off of the limited. I mean, you just got to keep going down tiers and tiers and tiers to where I'm at with the limited information that I have. I want to give y'all my biggest stock ups and stock downs from the mandatory minicamp specifically. Now, some thoughts may come from voluntary OTAs, but I want to narrow this down to just mandatory minicamp for the most part. And we're gonna do our stock ups and stock downs per usual. And it may not even necessarily be a specific player or even a specific position group. It could be something that's specific as like such and such depth, or starting such and such, or quality, things like that. Y'all know how I get with a lot of these different videos. So instead of wasting more of y'all time before we dive into all of this, make sure y'all stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned for all of the content. Again, daily content at least, and I'm working on starting to get some live streams up for y'all. I'm thinking schedule wise, Saturday would make the most sense for me. So just stay tuned for that. I'm gonna keep y'all updated. I know today's Saturday, but we won't be able to start today, but I do want to start getting in weekly call-in shows, at the very least bi-weekly call-in shows. So make sure you stay tuned for those updates. I'm working on rookie film sessions, all of that type of stuff. And without further ado, instead of wasting even more of y'all time, let's go ahead and get to this video right now, man. Let's get it. Adam. All right, so let's start with the positives. I only have like a couple of negatives, to be completely honest, because again, it's very limited information. So we don't exactly know how to judge certain things all the way, but we're just trying to take this from the viewpoint of, okay, this looks better than what I expected from a few months ago, trying to look to where we are now. As of where we are today, as of June 22nd, I'm a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more excited or hype about a specific thing compared to where we were a few months back. So just keep that in the back of your mind when we're talking about these specific things that I have stock ups and stock downs for. That I'm not necessarily saying that these things are great or bad, they just look better than what I expected. Basically, the stock is up compared to where the stock was originally. I feel like it raised, even if very small, even if very marginal. I still feel like the stock went up, or maybe the stock even went down. For some of the stock downs, is more so of like a, maybe we should worry about this a little bit more. We kind of went into the off-season practices assuming that this thing would be fixed, and so far it's not looking as fixed as I hoped. We'll get there. So let's start with the ups. First of all, I want to talk about wide receiver depth. The stock for that definitely went up. I was one of the main people, even just within the past few weeks, saying that we need to not only just get specifically a big wide receiver in the room, because right now Luke McCaffrey is your only projected, I guess, somewhat tall receiver on your team right now that's going to make the 53-man roster. Bryson Tremaine is 6'5", but I think he's more of a practice squad guy, even though he has been making plays so far in offseason practices. But is it enough for him to make the 53-man roster? I wouldn't bet money on it. Outside of Bryson Tremaine is 6'5", I mean, y'all have heard me say this over and over again. Luke McCaffrey, rookie Luke McCaffrey at 6'2", is our tallest receiver. And we're already starting to see that they're trying to use him in like a Curtis Samuel, Deebo Samuel-like role, use him more like his brother, where he's more of a receiver than a running back, whereas Christian McCaffrey's more of a running back than receiver, but both of them can do both. We're already starting to give him like handoffs. He's practicing handoffs directly with one-on-one time with run game coordinator Anthony Lynn. So he's going to be used all over the place in the backfield. You can use him as a big slot. You can use him out wide. He's a deep threat. And so on top of all of that, if you want to use him as your big receiver, I'm not sure of how to. And then again, he's only 6'2". And when you say only 6'2", it does sound crazy. But when I say a bigger receiver, I'm talking like 6'4", 6'5" type of guy. I know we have some big tight ends that can catch, but in the receiver room specifically, 53-man roster projection wise, all we have is 6'2" Luke McCaffrey as our tallest receiver. But even beyond that, back to my original point, going into offseason practices, I was like, man, this receiver group just needs more depth, period. Because I feel comfortable with Jahan Dotson bouncing back, especially with improved quarterback play, which I'm assuming we're going to get from Jaden Daniels, with an improved offense and getting him involved as well as possible with Cliff Kingsbury over Eric Bieniemy. I'm assuming Terry McLaurin's going to do his thing. I mean, he's been one of the most consistent receivers in the NFL. I forgot the exact stat, but only him and Mike Evans have done like a certain thing, like a certain amount of catches, and have 1,000 yards receiving each of like the last 4 years at least. I think it's literally just Terry McLaurin and Mike Evans. That's it in that company. Mike Evans has like a 10 streak on that. I think Terry McLaurin's like 4 or 5. But either way, I know Terry McLaurin's going to ball out. I'm very confident in Jahan Dotson's bounce back. And I really like Luke McCaffrey. I'm probably higher on Luke McCaffrey than probably even most of our fan base. But then outside of that, walking in, I'm like, okay, what are we doing at receiver? We need some guys that can make plays. We need some guys that are most importantly going to be dependable targets for Jaden Daniels. I like Jamison Crowder as a veteran slot guy. Maybe our starting punt returner, decent. De'Ami Brown, like I always say, is literally our best blocking wide receiver. He also showed you flashes of deep threat ability last year when Carson Wentz not last year, the year before that when Carson Wentz started throwing him the ball. But then you also saw a couple of flashes here and there from Sam Howell, but I mean, he just had a problem with coming down with the ball. Even in preseason, he was dropping passes he had no business dropping. But who knows? Maybe improve quarterback play and improve offensive coordinator calling the right plays, personnel groupings and things like that. And maybe just over time with him working harder, maybe he just got better. Who knows? Then you also brought in Olamide Zaccheaus in free agency, and I've been seeing him buzz a lot in mandatory mini camps and things like that. But before we got to mandatory mini camps, I was still unsure about the depth of this unit. But again, now I'm starting to see Olamide Zaccheaus show out a little bit. A lot of people his name is starting to ring, especially as one of our potential starting kick returners. And then you're also seeing Davion Davis make a play pretty much every day in practice. Now, granted, at best, I think I've ever seen him go against the second unit, never going against the starters, but he's been making plays and standing out. And if you're going against the backups, to look like a starter amongst the backups is really all you can do. And all of the plays that he's been making, whether it's by Jeff Driscoll or Marcus Mariota, he's been the big play guy right now. So maybe there's better depth right there. I would definitely say stock up for guys like him, looking noticeably better than what I expected going into mandatory mini camps. And then you also have random guys, saw plays from Bryson Tremaine that he was making. My boy Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint, he was making plays before he got hurt in rookie mini camps. I hope he can return as soon as possible. So maybe this receiver depth is a little bit better than I thought. My whole worry was if one of those top three guys, and McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, or McCaffrey, gets hurt, what do we do? What are we looking at? Who does Jaden Daniels really have to throw to at that point? You'll have like 2 solid receivers that you can depend on, and then outside of that, what's going on? I love it when we're fully healthy. 3 really good receivers, I'm fully content with that. But I'm just worried about we're one injury away from a guy. Jahan Dotson did miss games a couple of years ago, and I mean, you just never know. Luke McCaffrey's a rookie. Big question marks there. So I'm just worried if we ever have to go a game without one of those top 3 receivers, who's going to be the guy to step up? I'm hoping that De'Ami Brown can be that guy. We've seen a little bit of Olamide Zaccheaus and Davion Davis making plays. Maybe they can be one of those guys when Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint gets back healthy. Maybe he can be one of those guys. And also, do not sleep on Jamison Crowder. So even though I don't love our wide receiver depth right now, I definitely would say the stock has gone up a little bit. I'm a tiny bit more confident in the wide receiver depth leaving mandatory mini camps than before walking in, for sure. Then let's talk about tight end talent and competition. Now on paper, and now granted, we still haven't played a game with those guys. We haven't even done a scrimmage, a joint practice, or a preseason game. But a few weeks ago, I was like, okay, on paper, this tight end group has a lot of talent, has a very high ceiling. And so far from what I've seen in off-season workouts, especially mandatory minicamp, this tight end talent and competition is actually really intense, man. I mean, a really good tight end is not making this roster. I'm going to let y'all know that right now. Somebody is going to end up getting cut, and another team is going to steal them away. Whichever tight ends we don't keep are getting picked up by other teams. Unless we store them away and put them in like the protected part of your practice squad, that's the only way you're keeping these guys. Because I mean, these guys have been stepping up big time right now. I mean, you already know Zach Ertz, Ben Sinnott, John Bates. That's 3 tight ends already off the rip, making the team. No doubts about it. John Bates is arguably the best blocking tight end in the NFL as an inline guy. Ben Sinnott, I mean, I just think he's literally just a higher ceiling, more athletic Chris Cooley. I think he's going to ball out. Adam Peters himself even said that he reminds him of like a Kyle Juszczyk and George Kittle combination. Adam Peters was literally the guy that found George Kittle and wanted to get him in the 5th round and did so. And now he is who he is. So if anybody knows what George Kittle looks like, it's Adam Peters, because he's the guy that found George Kittle in the 5th round. So if he says that Ben Sinnott reminds him of George Kittle in certain ways, mixed with a little bit of Kyle Juszczyk, I believe him. Either way, my point is, I think he's going to be a dog. He may not come out immediately week 1, but I think he has Pro Bowl tight end potential written all over him. And then Zach Ertz, as long as he's healthy, super dependable, nuanced target for Jaden Daniels that knows how to utilize leverage and angles. He's always going to be open when Jaden Daniels needs it. Whenever Jaden Daniels is, you know, pre-snap, maybe things look good. Then he snaps the ball. Post-snap, things are a little cluttered. When in doubt, Zach Ertz is open somewhere. That's who he will be for a rookie quarterback. That's going to be so invaluable. You can't even really put a price tag on it. Those are your top 3. Then beyond that, if we keep 4, which I'm assuming we have to, because the tight end talent is just so ridiculous. And again, we don't have any big receivers, so I feel like at the very least you keep an extra tight end just for that role. Y'all already know between the last 3 guys and Armani Rogers, Cole Turner, and Colson Yonkov, I'm rooting for Armani Rogers the most because he has the highest ceiling between the 3. You could argue just based off of his freakish athleticism, he has the highest ceiling in our entire tight end room. Arguably one of the highest ceilings on the offensive side of the ball on this roster just because of his freakish athleticism. It's all about just sitting down and learning the tight end position, learning how to block, learning how to get open, running routes, catching things like that. But as far as just a pure athletic specimen, it's like him, Jeremy Chin, and undrafted free agent Tyler Owens is arguably the 3 most athletic freaks that we have on this entire roster, defense, offense, whatever. So y'all know I'm rooting for him. And so if he makes the roster, that's 4. I highly doubt we're keeping 5, which leaves Cole Turner and Colson Yonkov off of the making the 53-man roster, which Colson Yonkov, he's been making play after play after play off-season workouts, especially mandatory minicamps. I even showed y'all clips of him catching some deep passes from Jaden Daniels. So he has great chemistry with your starting franchise quarterback already as an undrafted free agent. This is a guy that's making noise. He's catching the eyes of the coaching staff and things like that. But you can maybe get away with throwing him on a practice squad just because he was an undrafted free agent and other teams overlooked him at one point. Maybe they overlook him again. But Cole Turner, man, with his ability to make any catch, no matter how contested, that's a specific skill set that I would love to keep on this team. But I highly doubt we keep 5 tight ends. Cole Turner is definitely the type of guy that if he does not make our 53-man roster and we don't protect him with one of those limited protected practice squad spots, a team is going to scoop him up immediately. And I wouldn't be surprised if he goes somewhere else and is featured and looks like a tight end 2 or 3, but he's barely even our tight end 5 on this roster. And that proves my point as to how deep and talented this tight end room actually is for the Commanders. It went from one of our biggest weaknesses last year to one of our biggest strengths. Now, granted, there's still a lot of on-paperness to this. There's still a lot of ceiling to this, not necessarily proven floor and production in this group, but I'm very excited about the talent. I think this group has one of the highest ceilings of any potential group out of this entire team. So again, my main point is stock up on the tight end room and the competition in it, because we're going to end up cutting 1 or 2 tight ends that honestly deserve to make this 53-man roster, but we're just so deep at the position. What can you really do, to be completely honest with you? Now, moving on to another stock up, safety talent and competition. Now, I've been screaming this even before we got to off-season workouts, but to make it even better, once we got to the mandatory mini camps and things like that, they really started to show that talent. That talent started to show up left and right. Our safety group right now, there's just ridiculous talent. I mean, if I had to project today, I think your starting safeties are possibly Jeremy Chin and Quan Martin, just from what I'm seeing and hearing so far in off-season workouts. Those have literally been your starting safeties at times. But of course, Joe Witt Jr., Dan Quinn, and all of those guys have constantly emphasize, never ask me what the 11 defensive starters are. There's going to be a rotation, a heavy rotation of 16 to 17 guys that you could technically count as starters, because everybody's going to play so much. Just because a guy is out there for snap 1, week 1 on defense does not necessarily mean that he's going to even play more snaps than the guy that is not out there snap 1, week 1. It's going to be such a heavy rotation. It's going to be very matchup based, depending on what offense we're going against, what their strengths are, what we need to take away from them, and things like that. Who's going to play more on a week by week basis. But as of right now, if I had to technically project, if we had to do a depth chart, I would say Quan Martin's probably your starting free safety. Jeremy Chinn is your starting strong safety. And the reason that you have to do that, even though I think Jeremy Chinn has all pro potential as a star, like the big nickel hybrid linebacker safety guy, Mike Sainristil is too talented to keep off of the field. I think he needs to play at least like 70% of snaps. It's just really hard, even against the run he makes plays. So that's your starting slot. He needs to be on the field at least 70% of times. Then you're still gonna have to have 2 outside corners, and you're limited to only 2 safeties at that point. So Jeremy Chinn and Quan Martin, I think, when in doubt, are your starting safeties. But that and that's the crazy part, because Percy Butler has flashed a lot. He's shown a couple of flashes last year, showing like, okay, he's starting to get it. But so far this offseason, he's really starting to improve. I feel like this is his biggest jump from one season to the next, going from 2023 to 2024. I think Percy Butler looks like a starting caliber safety almost at this point. But he's even behind Derek Forrest, who was our starting safety, but he was hurt most of last year. But the year before that, he was showing major flashes with his range and things like that. Even though he's built like a star position, he prefers to play like a rangy free safety. We'll see what he could do. But there's no way you can deny Derek Forrest off the field. He has to play. Derek Forrest is too talented to not be on that field. You got to find a way to get him involved. I mean, this safety group was ridiculous. Then on top of that, Dominique Hampton, who we just drafted, 2023 rookie. I mean, where does he fit in all of this? I mean, I've already seen clips, I've heard comments, even Logan Paulson in their podcast with Craig Hoffman was talking about how Dominique Hampton, even though he is a rookie, is already actually looking pretty good, and his length is really valuable, and you've seen it in plays where he's covering Zach Ertz very well. That guy's like way at the bottom of your depth chart right now. Tyler Owens is an undrafted free agent this year, and he's the freakiest athlete at safety in the entire NFL. If we're just talking pure athleticism, pure testing and measurables and things like that, I mean, there's no other safety in the NFL with his athletic profile. Jeremy Chinn is the closest guy to him. We have both of them on the same team. This is arguably the most athletic secondary in the entire NFL, which is actually really ridiculous, especially in that safety group. I mean, the competition is absolutely insane right now. So much talent. We got to find a way, because Jeremy Reeves, love him on special teams, but I don't necessarily love him as a safety per se to go out there and play free or strong safety for us. But he's going to make this team because he's just an invaluable piece on special teams. And I know it's special teams, but when you're that great at it, you are a very valuable piece to this team. It's hard to put a real number value to what Jeremy Reeves gives to this team. So I mean, this safety group is absolutely insane, man. The talent and competition here is even more fierce than the tight end room right now. And it's actually scary. So, hey, man, more power to him. I can't wait to see how Joe Wood Jr. and Dan Quinn put their heads together to figure out how to feature all of these guys, because you got to get these guys on the field, man. Percy Butler is arguably our fastest safety, quickest safety. He can play slot, corner, and free safety with the range, especially now that he's starting to understand the game a little bit better. Derek Forrest, you already know his profile. Quan Martin is literally just a more athletic, quicker, more explosive, faster Cameron Curl. Then Jeremy Chinn, again, freakish ceiling. Has all pro level athleticism to him. He just has to figure it out. And I feel like it's more so a team has to figure out how to use him more so than he has to figure out how to play within a defense. Because the first year, his rookie season with Carolina, he was defensive rookie of the year, runner up to Chase Young. I mean, he was playing at an elite level. You could argue he deserved to make the Pro Bowl that year. And then he kind of fell off of the face of the earth after that because Carolina changed defensive coordinators. And that defensive coordinator literally was just lazy. He doesn't like the star position. He's just purely, you play linebacker or you play safety. There's no in between. He did not learn how to use Jeremy Chinn in creative ways. So that's where I think Jeremy Chinn, my main point is that he still has a lot of talent unlocked away. And if anybody can unlock Jeremy Chinn, is this coaching staff. That's why he chose to come to us. That's why he decided to take less money and play for us than to go to a team like the Steelers that he confirmed offered him more money. Like I assumed. I said months ago that Jeremy Chinn had to have taken more money to sign with us than he could have gotten elsewhere. And then he confirmed it like over a week ago, a couple of weeks ago. And I mean, this coaching staff with Dan Quinn specifically, with Cam Chancellor, J-Ron Curse, all of these big safety hybrid linebacker type of guys. If anybody knows how to use him, if you had to pick one coach in the NFL that knows how to utilize that exact body type and athletic makeup, it is Dan Quinn. So I think Jeremy Chin made the right choice, and I think he has Pro Bowl, All-Pro potential here. He's one of the most exciting players that we signed this entire offseason, in my opinion. I think he's up there with like Jaden Daniels and Frankie Louvu for the most exciting players that we brought in. So safety group, again, absolutely ridiculous, obvious stock up. And I was already very high on them. That's why this one's kind of weird, because my stock was already very high on the safety group going into mandatory minicamp, and then it just somehow increased even beyond that, leaving it. Then next up, I feel like versatility is a big stock up. Now, we knew coming into this offseason practices, like voluntary OTAs, mandatory minicamps, and things like that, we had a few versatile pieces on our team that is like, man, what do you do with these guys? But I'm talking about offense and defense. And Dan Quinn even went out of his way to talk about Quan Martin, Jeremy Chin, and Frankie Louvu, about how versatile they are. Again, Quan Martin, I mean, I didn't just say it earlier, but I've said it in other videos. And when we drafted him last year, I literally said this guy can play everywhere in the secondary except for outside corner. But he did play outside corner at times at Illinois a couple of years ago. But that's probably the only position in the secondary that I'm not necessarily that comfortable with him playing. But you need him to be the slot corner, the star, the Buffalo nickel, whatever, the strong safety, the free safety. He could do all of that and excel. So that versatility is absolutely insane. And again, Jeremy Chin, like I just said, he's such an athletic freak. I think he can play pretty much anywhere except for corner. And then Frankie Louvu, I mean, the ability to rush the passer, to stop the run, gap fill, instincts, coverage, all of that is absolutely insane. Again, Dan Quinn specifically pointed out those three guys when he was asked about versatility, I guess it was like day 1 or day 2 of mandatory mini camps. He had a press conference afterwards. He was literally asked about versatility. He named those three guys himself. But then on top of that, even on offense, Austin Eckler, Brian Robinson, and Luke McCaffrey, who they're now again trying to mold into somewhat of like a Christian McCaffrey, or you can say a Curtis Samuel, who we just lost, so we have that hole to fill. Luke McCaffrey seems to be filling in that hole. Or from the 49ers wise, because of Adam Peters and because of Anthony Lynn, who's coming from the 49ers last year to be our run game coordinator, you can say Deebo Samuel-like role. So that's the versatility there. And of course, Austin Eckler and B-Rob speak for themselves. Austin Eckler, we already know, he had a down season last year, but just going back to 2 years before, and even before that, I mean, he was just a touchdown magnet, led the NFL in touchdowns each with 2 consecutive seasons. And then Brian Robinson, his versatility is extremely underrated. Even amongst his fan base, a lot of people don't realize how versatile he can be, especially when it comes to catching the pass. You saw last year in Eric Bieniemy's offense with Sam Howell throwing the ball, Brian Robinson exploded for some passing touchdowns. I'm telling you, man. So the versatility on offense and defense, Joe Wood Jr. and Cliff Kingsbury have plenty of chess pieces at their disposal. And there's probably a few more names out there that I could have really done a deep dive into, but those are some of the most notable ones. And then also, second to last stock up, Jaden Daniels, man. I mean, you know, when you draft a quarterback second overall, especially after they win the Heisman in the year before, that you're like, okay, we have ourselves a really good quarterback that should be ready to go. He should be ready to start week 1. He should be named to start immediately. All of these type of things. But I mean, this guy has even exceeded everybody's, I think, expectations at this point. Now, granted, it's still the off season. He hasn't actually played a single snap in the NFL yet in a regular season game. We haven't had full pads. We haven't had full contacts. But anything that they asked Jaden Daniels to do, and even beyond that, he's excelled or exceeded expectations. Even beyond the things that they didn't even ask him to do. I mean, he's the guy showing up first to the facilities. Again, John Allen, I forgot who the other person was. It was Nick Allegretti or Tyler Biotish, somebody, one of those other offensive linemen. Somebody said, Samuel Cosme maybe, it was Jonathan Allen and one of the offensive linemen. They said that they literally pride themselves on being first in the building. And they both said that somehow, I don't know when Jaden Daniels is getting there, but he's somehow already not only there before me, but it looks like he's already been there for a while, warming up and things like that, ready to go. And then Jaden Daniels came out and like, actually, they questioned him about it. Like, when do you get there? If Jonathan Allen and all these guys are saying that they're getting there at 6:30, you're somehow there before them. When do you get in there? And he's replied that I've been basically getting there like 5:45 around. And even Luke McCaffrey's been getting there with me every day just as early as well. So we like like we're trying to build that chemistry and things like that. I mean, everything that you can ask him to do as far as accuracy, as far as showing potential to go through progressions. Cliff Kingsbury even talked about this guy is so advanced when it comes to changing protections and knowing what to look for and IDing potential blitzes and things like that. All of the pre-snap stuff. And again, I've said this in several videos, the fact that Jayden Daniels is already further along than Marcus Mariota and Jeff Driscoll, both veteran quarterbacks, as far as even like the nuanced things. We can talk about Jayden Daniels having the better arm, the better accuracy, the better legs. That's all physical. But when it comes to the mental things as well, he's already beyond Marcus Mariota and those guys. Marcus Mariota was just starting in the NFL just 2 seasons ago for the majority of a season for the Falcons. And Jayden Daniels is already ahead of him when it comes to going through the progressions and delivering the ball out to a good target and making the right decisions and things like that. He's already there. Now, granted, again, no pads, no contact yet, no real pressure, but I'm telling you, Jayden Daniels, I prefer Jayden Daniels over Drake May in the draft. I would have been happy with both, but I prefer Jayden Daniels. And even a guy like me that preferred Jayden Daniels, he still already exceeded my expectations at this point, and everybody's talking about it. I'm literally working on a video right now with all of the behind the scenes and even some people in the national media, all of the things that are being said about Jayden Daniels right now. I saw a clip earlier today. I forgot who said it. I think it was Jeremy Fowler, but he said something to the extent of that around the NFL right now, people are starting to grow a little scared of Jayden Daniels from what they're hearing from Commanders camp and things like that. I'm telling you, the Jayden Daniels stock is up. And then lastly, before we get to the stock downs, team health is a big one, man. I'm not gonna lie. Now, granted, we have had a couple of injuries. I know at one point, like Derek Forrest and Percy Butler didn't participate in practice the last day of mandatory mini camps, but they didn't necessarily appear to be injured. I guess maybe it was a day off. We don't know. And then Zach Ertz and Jamison Crowder sat out Wednesday's mandatory mini camp, but then they returned Thursday, the last day of mandatory mini camps. Were good to go 100%. Johnny Newton, of course, is recovering from his foot injury that he suffered basically, I guess, in college. And then F.A. Obata is still dealing with a lower leg fracture. I believe that was something that he suffered towards the end of last season as well. So we really don't have any serious new injuries. Frankie Louvu missed one practice because of like an ankle injury or something like that, and he practiced inside the bubble when everybody else was outside. It's not even like he sat down. He just practiced separately from everybody else, and then I didn't hear anything else of it, so I'm assuming he's 100% to go as well. So stock up on team health, because we are literally as healthy as you can possibly be at this point in the offseason. Not gonna lie, I'm very happy about it. I'm definitely cherishing it right now, and I'm knocking on wood and just hoping that that can continue forever. I mean, that would be an ideal situation, best case scenario, but as of right now, we're as healthy as a team could be at this point in the offseason. A lot of teams, I'm already seeing those notifications from Bleacher Report or from Twitter saying such and such has torn an ACL or long-term injury, will be out for weeks and things like that from other teams in their mandatory mini camps and OTAs, and right now we're dodging a lot of those bullets. I'm happy. Hopefully we can keep it up. That's the last stock up right now. Team health going crazy. Maybe my guy Tim McGrath has something to do with it. I don't know. We'll see. Now let's get to the couple of stock downs that I have right now. And left tackle certainty has to be one of them. Now, granted, Brandon Coleman has looked pretty good so far from what I've seen, but with no pads, with no full contact, it's really hard to scout and really break down and analyze what an offensive lineman is doing right now. I can't wait to get to training camp so we can really see these guys go at it and really see where we are. But right now, I'm just not loving what I'm hearing so far from the left tackle position. Now, I necessarily didn't love it going in. I was already apprehensive about Brandon Coleman potentially even having a chance to start week 1, and right now it's not looking like he's potentially on that track, but who knows, maybe he comes out once we put on the pads, we get in the full contact, maybe he's way better than we think. But as of right now, I mean, he started like one day of mandatory minicamp at left tackle, but the other days I believe it was Cornelius Lucas. We'll see what's going on there, but again, left tackle certainly, it hasn't gotten any better. I'm not even necessarily going to say that it's gotten worse, but it's more of like a time is ticking thing. The fact that I'm not more comfortable with the left tackle position and time is going by is why the stock is going down. I mean, we're basically just about the same level as comfortable as we were a couple of months ago, but it's just time is ticking. And so now the stock's going to go down. If the certainty stays at the same level and time is passing by, the stock is going down. That's my whole point there. Now, I do have faith that Brandon Coleman can play at a Pro Bowl level eventually. The problem is, you just drafted a franchise quarterback second overall in the draft. He's the guy with the keys to the franchise. And if Brandon Coleman is not ready to start week 1, which is something I would not put my money on right now at all, I don't know, man. Jaden Daniels, you may be running around a lot because I like Cornelius Lucas as a pass protector, but he can't run block well. That makes you one-dimensional. Trent Scott, a better run blocker, very mobile, can get to the second level, can pull and things like that. Not a good pass protector. Maybe we just do a rotation of back and forth between those two guys, which sounds bad. And also, even if it could work, you're still letting the defense know what you're doing. Cornelius Lucas is on the field. You're more than likely doing 3-5 step drops with Jaden Daniels, and he's scanning the field trying to deliver a ball. Trent Scott on the field, you're doing some complicated run play, whether it's Austin Eckler, Brian Robinson, or even Jaden Daniels, or even Luke McCaffrey. You just never know. Screen pass, whatever. So, I don't know. We got to figure that one out. Brandon Coleman, hopefully he can take over because he has the potential to be really good at both, where he's everything that Cornelius Lucas is good at and everything that Trent Scott is good at in one person plus more. So we got to be rooting as a fan base. If there's one thing that you can really be rooting for right now, heading into preseason and in the regular season, is first of all, we stay healthy. Though that's of course the number one thing. But right behind it is Brandon Coleman is ready to start week 1. That's going to be big time for not only just our offensive line as a whole, but Jaden Daniels more importantly, man, and how hard of a start we can get off to with a lot of our hardest games being early in the season. I mean, it's an ugly situation to not have a starting bona fide left tackle right now. And then lastly, outside corner quality right now, especially long term. I mean, right now, even say best case scenario, Michael Davis and Benjamin St-Juste and Emmanuel Forbes are like a good trio of outside corners. Well, the only one that's on actual contract after this regular season ends, once we get to the 2025 offseason, is Emmanuel Forbes. That's it. Benjamin St-Juste is on the last year of his contract, and Michael Davis is on a 1-year prove-it deal. That's it. So this outside corner group, I mean, let's just back it up. Let's even before we get to long term, because that's a good problem to have, trying to figure out how we're going to keep good corners long term. Do we even have good corners right now in the first place? I love our defensive back group in general. Again, slot corner on lock. Mike Sanford still, and then all of the star positions, all of the hybrid safety, linebacker, big nickel guys that we have in rotation with Dominique Hampton, Jeremy Chin, Quan Martin, whoever you want to throw in there. I'm very excited about those guys. I've even been hearing good things about Kiyu Blue Kelly and Tariq Castro Fields recently. But that outside corner position, I'm not too sure. I'm not very sure. I mean, you even got Emmanuel Forbes out here truly sitting down and learning how to punt return every practice that we've seen for the past couple of weeks. I mean, that's like a real thing that they're trying to work on. Now, that's not to say that he can't be a great punt returner and still be a lockup outside corner. I'm not saying that at all, but it does appear to be somewhat of a red flag that you're still working on him being a punter this long. I thought it may be like a 1 to 2, maybe even just 1 week of practice thing. But it's been a couple of weeks now that Emmanuel Forbes has been back there with the punt returners. It's really just been him and Jahan Dotson as like your primary punt returners in practice. Now, granted, I don't know if that means Jamison Crowder has lost the throne, and I don't know that just since those two are practicing means that those are the only two in competition for the starter punt returner role. Maybe there's still other guys that have a chance to start, like including Jamison Crowder, that's not getting those reps because they just feel like Jahan Dotson and Emmanuel Forbes need those reps because maybe they need to catch up to Jamison Crowder or somebody else. Who knows? Either way, it's just not looking great right now. It's not. We have a trio of, I mean, really, if we can get Benjamin St-Juste, Emmanuel Forbes, and Michael Davis to basically rewind back to their 2022 selves, we have a lockup secondary. Michael Davis was literally playing like a top 10 corner 2 years ago. Benjamin St-Juste, even though Pro Football Focus didn't love his 2022 season, us as a fan base felt better about Benjamin St-Juste leaving that 2022 season than we did leaving this past 2023 season, and it's not even really close in my opinion. I thought, okay, Benjamin St-Juste is good. We just need to figure out who's going to be opposite of him leaving the 2022 season. Then after the 2023 season, I'm like, is he even playable? But we'll see. I mean, I think a new defensive scheme is going to help him out a lot. It's going to help Michael Davis out a lot because you could blame last year and hit Michael Davis's struggles way more on their coaching staff, especially their defensive coordinator, way more than you could on Michael Davis. Very similar to Jeremy Chin's problem in Carolina. It was way more coaching than the player itself. So I'm expecting a bounce back year from Michael Davis. We just got to see about Benjamin St-Juste and Emmanuel Forbes, man. I mean, if there's any coaching staff that can unlock Emmanuel Forbes and what he's best at, is this one. You just saw Deron Bland set an NFL record for pick sixes last year, and I believe he led the entire NFL last year in interceptions. He was a 5th round pick out of the same draft that Emmanuel Forbes was a 1st round pick in, and it was reported that Dan Quinn wanted to draft Emmanuel Forbes in the 1st round if he would have made it to the Dallas Cowboys picks. He even had a top 30 visit with the Cowboys, so there was serious interest there. And basically they were like, well, we missed out on Emmanuel Forbes, let's get Deron Bland Bland and use him right. Now that same coaching staff that brought that greatness out of DaRon Bland, and I'm not trying to take anything away from him, but I feel like coaching had a lot to deal with that. That same coaching staff is coming here to get the more talented version, more naturally talented version of DaRon Bland. Of course, it's hard to say that Emmanuel Forbes is better than DaRon Bland based off of what we just saw in 2023, but coming out of college, Emmanuel Forbes was the more talented corner. He has the higher ceiling, and with Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr., their ability to utilize corners and put them in the right situations, I'm expecting, I mean, it's hard to even say a bounce back year because last year was just so bad. And I mean, he had flashes. I'm not trying to act like Emmanuel Forbes was just only terrible last year like some people are saying, but it wasn't good overall. But I'm expecting him to finally break out, and maybe he never lives up to first round pick, but I'm expecting him to look way better than he did last year, just purely off of a defensive scheme and coaching staff change. So I'm expecting big things from the cornerback group, but so far from what I've seen early in off seasons, again, it's just mandatory minicamp. We haven't even gotten the training camp, let alone preseason or anything like that. I'm not very confident here. We still got to see. I have reasons of optimism that I just gave you for the past 3 minutes, but I haven't necessarily seen it yet. So I can't wait to get the training camp we put on the pads and all of those type of things. Now, Dan Quinn did say that Emmanuel Forbes was looking pretty good in coverage this offseason so far in practices, but the biggest worry with Emmanuel Forbes is what is he going to look like against the run? Is he going to literally be unplayable unless it's obvious passing down situations? Because that's a big part of it. Mike Sanford's still small, but he makes plays against the runs. He's a very willing tackler, and he also brings people down and hits them hard and things like that. Whereas Emmanuel Forbes, if you want to play on the field, you gotta be able to contribute not only in coverage but also against the run, and that's also a big problem that we gotta wait and see once we get to training camp. But that's really it. Outside corner quality, even though it's not like a big glaring weakness, and left tackle, we'll see what's going on there. We have talent in Brandon Coleman, but there's no certainty there. Those are my 2 stock downs so far, and we'll see once we get to training camp if we can get those stocks up. Hopefully, Brandon Coleman starting the left tackle, and this trio of outside corners, they're looking better than we expected. Please, let's just rewind the clock and take every outside corner we have on this roster and just take them back to 2022, and let's see what they could do with that, man. And I think, again, this coaching staff, I think they're going to get it out of them. Oh, yeah, and one last stock down, man, obviously got to be the kicker situation. We don't have a kicker right now. I mean, Ahmed, what's his name, Ramiz Ahmed right now is like our only good, I mean, only technically kicker. We've been having kicker tryouts. I think we had a kicker tryout and like competition every day of mandatory minicamp. And as of right now, Ramiz Ahmed is the only kicker signed to this team. Jake Bates, who I wanted from the UFL, already signed with the Lions, like I was afraid of happening. Even I said it a few weeks ago that the Lions are probably the team that's hottest on this trail. Wouldn't be surprised if he ends up signing there. That's where he went. So now we're just probably going to open up training camp with more kicker competition. So right now the kicker situation is a major stock down. That's the biggest stock down on the team by far. We have Brandon McManus, who was a good kicker, Mr. Automatic from within 40, never missed a PAT at all last year, but it doesn't matter because he's out here doing all of this crazy off the field stuff, so we had to cut him. So now we went from super certified and shored up on the special team side of things, especially kicker wise. We got a new long snapper in Tyler Ott. We're going from the worst long snapper I've ever seen with my own 2 eyes to a Pro Bowl long snapper in Tyler Ott. I thought we were good to go. Larry Izzo is now our special teams coordinator, one of the best special teams coordinators in the entire NFL. I thought we were good going into voluntary OTAs, and then the Brandon McManus situation happened. Now we're in a desperate need of finding a kicker. Now who knows, other teams are probably going to end up cutting their kickers because a lot of teams right now have 2 kickers, and even some teams have 3. We're just trying to get one good one, please. So somebody's going to end up cutting the kicker even if we don't necessarily find one with the trials that we're having right now. Now so far Ramiz Ahmed has looked pretty good in the tryouts, but I'm not forgetting that he was Chris Blewett's backup in the UFL. Now he's looked good so far in offseason practices, but if you're Chris Blewett's backup, that's a huge red flag for me. So we'll see what's going on there. Kicker is by far our biggest stock down. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know if you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one, man. I really appreciate y'all. Make sure y'all stay tuned for everything, man. Make sure y'all stay tuned for all of the content that I'm working on. Make sure you do not leave this video without leaving a like. And of course, man, I really appreciate y'all. Let me know in the comment section how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Do you agree or disagree with any of my points? If you had to do a stock up up and a stock down from what you've seen or heard from mandatory minicamps and just off-season practices so far up to this point of June 22nd, what would be your stock ups and stock downs? What are your biggest strengths on the team? What are your biggest weaknesses? Again, let me know if you agree or disagree with any of my picks, any of my points that I made in this video. Let me know all of that. Again, I'm trying my best to read and reply to as many comments as possible. I've been super busy, but I really want to sit down and reply to those. Be on the lookout. I'm about to start working on scheduling like a live stream situation where we do it on a consistent basis. I'm more than likely going to pick Saturday, so be on the lookout for that, and also be on the lookout for more content. Again, so many video ideas that as long as I'm just not extremely busy with something outside of football, I'm coming to y'all with at least one video a day. So make sure y'all stay tuned for all of that. I really appreciate y'all. I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.